If you've seen some of my previous videos, you might already understand some of my preferences for wrist motion within the stroke. I don't mind some flexion extension this way, flexion this way in the backstroke, and conversely in the downstroke and follow through. It's mostly going to produce an in-plane motion, and it's perhaps going to help with the flow of the stroke, especially on those longer putts. But what I don't want to see is too much, if any, in the way of radial or ulnar. Radial being hinging upwards and ulnar being unhinging downwards. We kind of want to set that wrist in a certain position, pretty neutral, and then maintain that radial or ulnar throughout the stroke. In this video, I'm going to show you a drill I've designed to help you set that start position and maintain that throughout the stroke. So watch this video if you're someone that struggles with excessive change in radial or ulnar, and hopefully you're going to see some improvements in your HackMotion data. So first of all, what do we need to perform the drill? We need something that's going to wrap around our forearm. I'm using the HackMotion here. You can use wristband, hairband, whatever. We'll need some form of a longish stick. I've got a chopstick here. I'm going to put that up my forearm, up my radial bone, okay? And I'm going to make the base of the stick finish at the base of my thumb, and you can see it's going straight up my radial bone. Then we're going to need a coin, ball marker, something similar. So to start with, let's talk about a neutral start position. And we're talking in terms of ulnar or radial. So the first thing would be, if we have too much ulnar at setup, we're going to have a big gap between the base of our thumb and the stick. Okay? If we have too much radial, we're going to feel some pressure from the stick into the base of our thumb. So that stick, if it's at the base of my thumb, should be very, very slightly away from the stick. And that means this wrist here, this radial bone, is nice and flat at the wrist. Okay, and that's going to make it a nice strong position for me to maintain throughout the stroke. There can be a little bit of variability in that. I would, if I had a preference, I wouldn't want to see too many be radial. We can get, especially if we're a little bit more in the fingers, we can get more ulnar. But I wouldn't want to see that thumb, the base of the thumb, too far away from that stick. And then next I'm going to take my coin and I'm going to slide it. This can be a bit fiddly. Just gently. I don't want to wedge it completely in, but I want to slide it up until it kind of gently stays under the stick. Okay? And now I've got my neutral start position. If I can maintain that throughout the stroke, the coin will nicely stay in, and I won't feel any change in pressure on the coin. Okay, if I get to, let's do radial first. If I get radial, I can feel a pressure change in the stick. I can feel the coin digging in. Okay, the coin's not going to fall out. And then if I go to ulnar, then the coin is likely to drop out. So that's why the coin is there. A, to be able to feel the pressure a little bit more, and B, it will fall out if we get to ulnar. Okay, so coin goes back in again. It's not wedged in, it's kind of just gently in, so that it will fall out if there's any ulnar in the backstroke or throughout the stroke. And I'm going to leave it there, and I'm going to try and maintain that throughout. And if there's very little change in ulnar or radial, then I'm going to feel no change in pressure here, and that coin is going to stay nicely in. And then I'm just going to try and replicate that on the ball. That felt good, felt like I maintained a pretty neutral wrist position. And you can see on the HackMotion data there that line, that graph for ulnar radial stayed pretty straight. Do one more. There you go. Went to went to ulnar as I went to grab the ball. So we slide that in there. And then we're just going to try and maintain that position. Let's do some practice strokes to feel that. Okay. Try and keep the pressure equal throughout the stroke. Give this drill a try if you're especially someone who struggles with changing in ulnar radial throughout the stroke. A little bit fiddly to set up, but it's going to give you some really good feedback in changes of wrist position, radial or ulnar throughout the stroke. So the chopstick goes up my radial bone, and then if I'm in a neutral position at the start, there's going to be a small gap between the chopstick and the base of my thumb. That can vary a little bit. We don't want to see a huge gap, too much ulnar, or too much pressure in the stick, that's too radial. And there should just be a little gap where I can slide my coin in gently. And if I maintain that throughout the stroke, I shouldn't feel a change in pressure. If I go to radial, there's going to be a change in pressure this way. And if I go to ulnar, then the coin's going to drop out. Let's do that again. Coin gently goes in there. Some practice strokes, maintain the pressure. Some practice strokes, maintain the pressure, no changes, and then replicate that on the ball.